They didn't think you were going to find out about this one, did they? They thought the room was sealed, the walls were soundproof, the circle was airtight, and you were completely, blissfully unaware of what they were building in the dark without your name on the invitation. They scheduled it carefully, picked the time when you'd be most distracted, chose the people who hated you most, and sat down with one shared objective: the organized, systematic destruction of everything you had spent years constructing. They came prepared. They had notes. They had a plan. And then something extraordinary happened. Something they never calculated for, never included in their equation, never even considered as a variable. Someone in that room made a decision they weren't supposed to make. Not out of loyalty to you, necessarily. You may have never had a single deep conversation with this person, but out of something even more powerful than loyalty. Out of conscience. Out of the simple, ancient, unstoppable human instinct that says, this has gone too far. The whistleblower stood up from that table and walked directly toward the one thing your enemies feared most, the truth. And now here we are. Welcome back, you silent architects, you calculated ones, you long game players who have been watching this board with the calm patience of someone who always knew, not hoped, not wished, not prayed, but knew that the collapse was coming. You, the ones they talked about when they thought the walls were listening for them instead of for you. You, the ones they tried to bury, and you didn't panic. You didn't break. You didn't even flinch, because you understood something that they will never understand, no matter how many rooms they fill with people who hate you. You understood that the universe of human behavior always, without exception, contains one truth that no conspiracy can outrun. When enough people gather to destroy one person, somebody in that gathering will eventually decide the whistleblower isn't a miracle. The whistleblower is physics. Let's go back. Let's reconstruct exactly what they built in that room, because you deserve to see the full blueprint of what was assembled against you. They didn't just talk. Talking is what amateur enemies do when they're running on emotion and wounded pride. These people came with us months of observation disguised as friendship, curated during the moments you thought you were safe enough to be human. Every insecurity you ever voiced to them became a weapon. Every kindness you extended became evidence of softness they planned to exploit. They mapped your relationships, who you trusted, who trusted you, who might believe you if you tried to explain what was happening. And one by one, they began the quiet contamination campaign. A word here, a concerned expression there, the kind of sentence that sounds supportive, but leaves a residue. I just worry about them sometimes, you know? Not an accusation, not yet, just a seed, planted in the mind of someone who cares about you, watered by implication, left to grow in the dark while they smiled in the light at every event you both attended. They targeted your professional reputation with the same surgical precision. They didn't make loud claims. Loud claims create enemies, create witnesses, create counter-evidence. They whispered. They raised eyebrows. They asked questions in rooms where you weren't present that were designed not to find answers, but to plant doubt. I don't know about what specifically. Doesn't matter. The seed is in the ground now. The doubt is a living organism and it grows without tending. That's the beauty of their method and the reason they thought it was foolproof. They even prepared for your reaction. They anticipated that eventually you might notice something was wrong. So they pre-constructed your reaction for the people around you. If you got upset, it confirmed you were unstable. If you went quiet, it confirmed you were guilty. If you confronted them, it confirmed. Here is what they forgot. Here is the single critical flaw that runs through every human conspiracy, regardless of its sophistication, its funding, or the intelligence of the people who designed it. They built a system that required every single participant to remain fully committed, fully silent, and fully certain forever. And human beings simply do not work that way. Certainty has a half-life. Silence has a carrying cost, and commitment to causing harm to another person. Real, deliberate, calculated harm requires a person to look at themselves every single morning and decide again, consciously, to continue. Most people cannot do this indefinitely. There was someone in that room who initially convinced themselves it was justified. Maybe they told themselves you deserved it. Maybe they told themselves they were protecting someone. Maybe they were so far into their own relationship with the people running the gap is undeniable. The whistleblower didn't make a noble decision. They made a human decision. They reached a point where the psychological cost of carrying what they knew exceeded the social cost of what telling it might mean. They made a calculation that you were never supposed to benefit from, and they came forward. And understand what that moment represents, because it represents something much larger than just information being transferred. It represents the entire architecture of the conspiracy meeting, the one thing it was never designed to survive. A crack in the wall, from the inside. Now your enemies are experiencing something they have never experienced in any of their previous campaigns against other people. They're experiencing the sensation of having the floor collapse underneath a structure they were certain was solid. They built the whole operation on that everyone in that room was as committed as they were, and as indifferent to conscience as they were, and as certain of your guilt or your inadequacy as they were. And the whistleblower just proved that assumption wrong. And if that assumption was wrong, every other assumption they made about what they were doing and who they were doing it to is now in question. You want to know what's happening in their world right now, not in 2 weeks. Right now, in the hours since they realized what the whistleblower did. There's a group chat. It's moving fast. Every message is some variation of panic disguised as strategy. Someone is asking how much got out. Someone is insisting it can't be that bad. Someone is already calculating how to distance themselves from the ringleader if the full picture, because that is the second thing that happens when a conspiracy gets exposed. The people who were united in building it become instantly, viciously competitive about surviving it. The one who designed the operation is scrambling to contact the whistleblower. They're in damage control mode, but they have a fundamental problem. They cannot do damage control without acknowledging that damage was done. And acknowledging that damage was done means acknowledging that the operation existed. And acknowledging that the operation existed means acknowledging that everything they said about you to other people was a deliberate construction rather than a genuine concern. The thread once pulled, unravels in only one direction. Meanwhile, the people they convinced are doing their own recalculation. They're replaying the moments they received the whispering campaign. They're remembering the specific words, the specific tone, the carefully placed concern. And now those moments feel different. Now those moments look less like a friend sharing a worry and more like a recruiter signing them up for something they didn't fully understand. Some of them are going to feel used. Some of them are going to feel angry not at you, but at the people who turned their goodwill into a weapon without their fully conscious participation. And that anger is going to redirect. This is the physics of it. This is why what's happening right now is not just justice, it's an avalanche. Because every conspiracy against a person relies on the loyalty of the people in its orbit. And loyalty is not a fixed resource. It's renewable in the right conditions, and it evaporates in the wrong. The condition it evaporates fastest in is the one your enemies just created. The moment the people they recruited realized they were not partners in a righteous cause, but instruments in a personal vendetta. Nobody wants to be an instrument. Nobody wants to look back and realize their compassion was weaponized. And when they understand that's what happened, they don't defend the architects, they talk. Now let's address what you did while all of this was being built against you. Because this is the part of the story that your enemies will never be able to explain without making it look like you had accepted their version of you and crawled into it and closed the door. They celebrated that quiet. They pointed to it as evidence. See how they have nothing to say? See how the silence confirms everything we've been saying? But you and I both know what that silence actually was. That silence was the most expensive and that silence was you understanding at a cellular instinctual level that every word you said in your own defense during this period would be taken, distorted, weaponized, and added to the case they were building. So you said nothing. You appeared to accept. You let them think they had won. You remembered who stopped calling. You noticed who suddenly became available to your enemies at every event. You observed the shift in energy in rooms when you entered, not with paranoia, but with the precise attention of someone who has learned to read atmospheres because atmospheres have told you things that words refuse to. You tracked the timeline. You built a mental map of who moved where and when and why. And for whose benefit. You did not act on any of it. Not yet. You just watched. And the patience required for that kind of watching. The discipline required to know what you know and still choose silence is the rarest and most devastating form of strategic power that exists. Here is the cruelest part for your enemies. They can't even claim you were passive. If they acknowledge that you were watching and noting and waiting, they have to acknowledge that you are someone worth watching back. And if you're someone worth watching, you're someone worth respecting. And if you're someone worth respecting, the entire premise of their operation, that you are small, that you are weak, that you are easily crushed. Let's talk about what the whistleblower actually handed you. Because it is more than information. Information is one layer of it, and it's important. Yes, you now have names, dates, conversations, decisions, a documented record of what was organized against you in rooms you were never invited to. But the deeper gift is something far more valuable than any evidence you could hold in your hands. The whistleblower handed you permission, not legal permission, not social permission. They make you question whether your read on situations is accurate. They make you wonder if the discomfort you felt in certain rooms, the unease you felt around certain people, the sense that something was wrong that you couldn't yet name, they make you wonder if all of that was paranoia rather than precision. And that doubt is the most corrosive thing they introduced into your system. The whistleblower just confirmed that every instinct you suppressed in the name of being rational, every uneasy feeling you talked yourself out of in the name of giving people the best, you were accurate. And from this moment forward, you never have to apologize for that accuracy again. You never have to minimize your own instincts to make other people comfortable. You never have to choose the polite version of reality over the true one. The whistleblower's gift, at its deepest level, is the restoration of your relationship with your own mind. And that is worth more than any apology they could ever give you. That is worth more than any public reckoning. That is the thing that actually changes what your future looks like. Not because circumstances changed, but because you changed. You became someone who has evidence of their own perceptiveness. Watch what happens next. Not because you need to observe it for satisfaction, though you've earned that, but because what unfolds next reveals the full measure of who they actually are underneath the performance they gave everyone. Watch them try to reclaim the narrative by becoming the victim. This is the final stage of every failed operation, and it's as predictable as the sunrise. They will reframe the exposure as betrayal. They will make the story about the whistleblower's disloyalty rather than their own actions. They will attempt to redirect the conversation. Watch the ones who participated most actively begin their distance campaign. The group chat slows down. The public alignment with the architects becomes more muted. People who were visible in the operation become suddenly interested in appearing neutral, in being seen as having only heard things secondhand, in positioning themselves as bystanders rather than participants. This is not loyalty departing. This is self-preservation activating, and it's one of the most clarifying things you will ever witness about the people who surrounded you. Because the ones who stand by the architects, even now, are the ones whose capacity, you don't need to chase any of them. You don't need to confront, expose, or even publicly acknowledge most of what you now know. That is the counterintuitive gift of being in possession of the full picture. You no longer need anyone to confirm what you know, because you already know it. The power was never in the exposure. The power was in the knowing. The exposure is just the consequence that the universe... The whistleblower didn't create the collapse. They just opened the door that the collapse was already pressing against from the inside. What this moment has revealed is not just who your enemies are. It has revealed who you are on that quality. The ability to hold what you know and remain composed in the face of what they're doing is the single rarest human attribute that exists. Most people cannot do it. Most people either crumble or explode. You did neither. Here is the truth that this entire chapter of your life has been building toward. Not the truth about them. You already have that. The truth about you. You entered this period as someone who trusted broadly. You were giving the world the benefit of a doubt that the world then chose to weaponize, and that specific choice they made to convert your generosity into a vulnerability says nothing about whether generosity is correct or foolish. It says everything about who they are. You are exiting this period as something different, not harder, not colder, not closed. Those are cheap transfer. You have become calibrated. You have learned to feel the difference between openness and exposure. You have learned that instinct and intellect are not in opposition, that the gut sensation that something is wrong is not the enemy of rational thinking, but the first data point. You have learned that the most powerful position in any room is the one where you understand more than you reveal. This calibration cannot be taught. It cannot be learned from a book or a video or a conversation. And because you paid that price, because you held the line through the silence and the uncertainty and the slow, grinding weight of knowing something was wrong without being able to prove it yet, you now carry something that nobody can ever take from you again. The meeting they held to end you became the document of your resilience. The operation the whistleblower they never planned for became the universe's way of confirming what you already knew about yourself, that you were right, that your instincts were correct, that your patience was wisdom, that your silence was strategy, and that everything they tried to bury you with, every rumor, none of it reached the core. You are exactly who you were before they started. You are just no longer willing to pretend you don't know what you know. And that is the version of you they should have been afraid of all along. Leave a comment below with one word that describes how you feel right now. Just one word. Let's see what this chapter has made us.